All right, welcome everyone. The Service Academy Career Conference. We're excited to have Neighborly here on board with us to give us a great webinar on Beyond the Uniform, Building Your Future in Franchising, given by Tommy Jones. Neighborly is a great partner of ours, and I'm going to pass it on to you, Mr. Jones, and enjoy hearing what you got to say.
All right. Thanks, Jay. I really appreciate it. And like Jay said, my name is Tommy Jones. I'm the Director of Veteran Relations at Neighborly, and I'm honored to be here with you today for this Beyond the Uniform, Building Your Future in Franchising. Today, we're going to go over and explore some of your leadership experience, discipline, and mindset on how the military service translates you into business ownership. Specifically, we're going to hit on, obviously, franchising. And this isn't just about owning a business, it's about finding purpose and building your future for continue to serve. So you see this intro slide. This is my ugly face. You can see me on screen as well. So feel free to ask questions, drop questions in the chat. I'd love to hear it and provide some feedback to you or answer any questions towards the end. But really proud of the work that we do here at Neighborly. Before I get deep into the presentation, it is rare. I'm going to start with a quick video. So I'm sure some of you have seen some of these brands before. If you haven't, I'd be surprised. I'm sure you had no idea that it was probably associated with Neighborly, but you're going to learn so much more about Neighborly as we go over the slides. We've been in business for over 40 years, and we have 40 years of experience. And we're the world's largest home services company. We don't just help veterans and military spouses. We help veterans and military spouses and service members transition into service by providing these types of tools and training and support the community that they thrive in as business owners. Neighborly has 19 trusted brands of home services, everything from Mr. Rooter Plumbing to Molly Maid to Mr. Electric. Each one of them built around helping people take advantage of or take care of their houses and where they live. One plug I just want to say is what I'm really proud about working for Neighborly is that a lot of companies don't invest in they invest in educating service members and creating opportunities because they're focused on the bottom line and getting business owners in there. What I love about Neighborly is that they've invested in a position like mine. And it gives me the opportunity to educate service members on their transition, where they are in their career, and gives me an opportunity to educate them on what's available to them. Too many times we get told about employment opportunities, and education and how your VA benefits benefit you, but nothing really focused on business ownership. Sure, there may be a few little sessions on boots to business, but unless you seek it out, the information's really hard to find. And so I have the honor to be able to do this as a regular basis where I go on and I teach these types of classes. And again, it's to fill you with as much knowledge as possible so that you're making the best decisions for you and your family. And was one of those people that wasn't a fan of franchising, or there was two people that I stayed away from when I was transitioning out of the military, or when I got into my corporate job. My background was 20 years in the Army as a comms person. Transition out, I built Verizon's military programs. Then I had a stint at Walmart where I ran their program for about 18 months. And now I've been with Neighborly ever since, and really love the relationship that I have with them. I'll be honest with you, like I said, when I first started talking to Neighborly, I was a little uneasy about the franchise piece because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I feel like I owe true, authentic conversations to my peers and service members, and so I have that opportunity to do that here. Um, well, I had thoughts in my head from Missing Reality about franchising. I thought that franchising, you needed $250,000 or $250,000 to start a franchise. I thought you didn't own the business. I thought you only owned 10% of it. And every stereotype that I had about franchising, I was completely wrong about, specifically when it comes to home services. And that's really why I like this brand, Neighborly, and what they do for our community. I think it's just great. It creates legacy and creates wealth for our community. So just want to throw a plug in that, it's a great opportunity to work for a company that really cares about service members and military community. And Neighborly was founded by a veteran themselves. So Don Dwyer was one of our is our founding partner. He started VetFran after Desert Storm because he knew that generational wealth was something that service members needed. And so he went all in on making sure that there was opportunities for service members to create opportunities to have affordable business ownerships. So let's take a look at Neighborly at a glance. I talked high level about who we are. You're going to see a little bit more about our brands. We have 32 service brands. We have 19 service verticals and over 5,500 plus franchise locations, over 2,000 associates for Neighborly. And those Neighborly associates, they're the supporting cast that support all the other 32 service brands and 19 service verticals. Now, we're not just in the US, we are global, but our 19 service verticals are all in the United States. You can see the numbers that we have from a customer standpoint. And when you look at Neighborly as a whole, if you stood up and just thought of yourself as one brand, say it's Molly Maid, that you're tapping into the connection or the customers that fall under the maid service. Well, the beauty about being part of Neighborly is you're part of a giant brand and a family of brands that you have the ability to tap into these other customer databases that we have. So we have the largest customer database in the market, and we have the ability to reach people where we need to reach them, which is ultimately helping you all from a marketing standpoint as a business owner. So what is franchising? It's a proven method of business expansion where the franchisor, like Neighborly, grants someone like you, the franchisee, the right to operate under our own brand and under your own brand and systems. You are the business owner for yourself, but it's not by yourself. And I think that's really important. Think about owning a business and not having the ability to have a coach, a mentor, someone that has already done this. So franchises are meant to be made success. They're a proven model. Follow the process to the best of your ability. That's what's going to make you successful. When I tell veterans when they go into this space is we're good at following SOPs. We're good at mentoring and leading people. We're good at customer facing and putting others before ourselves. And so as you start to go down this journey and start to consider franchising, you should think about how that comes into play. And you may say, well, I don't know anything about certain brands. Well, I'm sure that you're on this journey right now where you had an occupation in the military, and there's certain jobs that you're looking outside of the military, and you say, well, how do my skills translate to this specific job? Well, I'd ask you to ask yourself the same question. How does my skill set and my leadership translate to business ownership? A lot of us have thought about business ownership. We just never pulled the trigger to decide to move on and do that because we were afraid of failure or don't know if we know enough about it. Again, that goes back to that statement of you're not by yourself. And that's really what I love about the franchise model is it's a business in a box. It helps you kind of get to that point to starting. It's got all the research done. And so it shows you a clear roadmap on how to launch a business from experience and then take it to the next level to profitability. So why consider franchise ownership? Well, here's why franchise makes sense, especially if you're, for those of us in the military, like I said, you start with a proven business model. It's not a trial and error. You're not trying to see, will this work? We know that it has worked. We know that these businesses have brand recognition and we know that they work. You get the right training and ongoing support from people who've done this before. So you've never been a business owner? Well, guess what? You're going to learn from a business owner. Not only learn from a business owner, but from that specific brand. So if we use Mr. Electric as an example, you're going to know everything you need to know how to own a electric company, electrician company, right? You're going to know that through and through, from the finances to managing people to resupply and supply chain and procurement, every aspect of the business down to marketing. And then the beauty is you can reach back and get that support where you need it from a neighborly standpoint as the enterprise. You gain access to the network of franchise owners who share best practices and help each other grow. So sounds a little familiar, right? You know, when you're a platoon sergeant or you're an officer in the military, the beauty of being on the same team is that you can reach over and talk to that lieutenant. You can talk to the other captain who's been in your shoes and been in it before, and they can share sound advice to make you successful. That's not as common in the individual business ownership. Just imagine you were, again, a Mr. Electric, and you wanted to talk to Tommy's Electric in your hometown. They're probably not going to share best practices to the point where they're going to allow customers to get from you. Now, they might be nice and share some of the best practices from a technology standpoint and troubleshooting standpoint, but the chances are they're not going to ruin their customer base by sharing too many proprietary information. The benefit to this is now you have not just one Mr. Electric, you may have 100 Mr. Electrics nationwide that you can reach out to and be part of that group and connect with them on a regular basis. And this allows you to ask transparent questions. They've been in your shoes, whether they're at the same journey you are and you're going through it together as a cohort in different locations, or they've been through this process and they're a well-fined oil machine as a business owner, and they're running a Mr. Electric at the height of its business. There's so much you can learn, and I think that's really the power of franchising. And so as we start to think about the power of franchising with Neighborly, when you join the Neighborly family, you're not just buying a brand, you're entering into an ecosystem of support. That is critically important. Again, you're not there alone, you're not by yourself, and you're not on an island. You're part of a national brand of recognition. You got cross-branding marketing opportunities, essential business services that people will always need, right? Think about it. You know, how many people do you know don't have electric, don't have plumbing, don't have HVAC, doesn't have their house clean? I mean, you name it. All of the services that we provide, those are things that are sustainable business growth, and they're not going away anytime soon. We provide comprehensive training, like I said, leadership development, and it's a business model built for stability and scalability. It's a combination of what helps our franchise owners thrive, even in an unpredictable economy. Can you imagine us not being able to fix our HVAC, our plumbing? Like that's not going to get replaced by AI. But how would we use AI? And so if you look at franchising and the business model that we have, that's where the power of franchising and Neighborly comes into play. You know, thinking about how do we use AI and our data to help make better business decisions for our franchise owners and acquire and attract more customers. And so what would some of those examples look like? Well, if they understand trends and they understand, let's say, and I'm just using this as an example, but let's say that based off data, every time somebody uses an electrician, within 3 months, they need a plumber. Well, our data will capture that, and they'll start marketing to those people that used our Mr. Electric and start sharing Mr. Rooter opportunities because they know that they're going to be in need. and they're going to be in need when they most likely don't need to hear about it, right? Which is 11:30 at night. What happened to me when I called Mr. Reuter at 11:30 at night? I was in panic mode, and I was glad that, ironically, I had a Marine Corps veteran come to my house, and he was my true first responder because I needed him bad. And it was really nice to see that they had a veteran come up. He showed up. He identified that he was a Marine Corps veteran. I told him I was an Army veteran, and that automatically got my business, and I was helping support them. So let's talk a little bit about navigating your next mission. Navigating your next mission is in your transition. Many veterans struggle with identity, purpose, structure after service. Franchise offers all three of that. It provides you a framework, accountability, teamwork, and environment that mirrors the military. And we also understand the financial and emotional challenges, which is why we connect veterans with resources, grants, lending partners, and make opportunities and ownership achievable. That was our founder's vision. He wanted to make sure that we were creating opportunities for our veterans to make ownership achievable. And that's exactly what happens when you join a team like Neighborly. So let's hear a little bit about some real franchise owners and hear what they have to say.
This offered me a huge opportunity to get back with my family, and that was really, really a big thing.
I believe that when I transitioned out of the military, one of the big things I had to answer was why. I believe that having the small business and starting within the franchise model allowed me the space to start to redefine what that purpose was.
So why is Neighborly a good fit for veterans? Because again, the model's already established. So coming from the military, you're accustomed to a playbook. So it makes it a lot easier. If you're able to follow the directions, you're going to be successful.
I'm a big believer that veterans can do just about anything they set their minds to because of all that goes into taking that time and having that service. What I also believe is that the strength of a veteran is their ability to adapt and to overcome challenges. And the franchise model at least helped me because once I had the template, I can then apply all those skills that I'd learned in the military.
In the military, especially in the Navy, I'm sure it's this way in all the branches, but we really, all of our promotions were based on our ability to lead. Even at the, E1, E2, we were still learning leadership every day or watching leadership. So, the leadership programs in the military are they're second to none, really. So then to be able to lead people out in the field, we can't always lead them like we're on a battlefield, but we need to lead them, like we were trained to lead in the service. So that's really carried over for me.
And in that way, I was able to be effective. I was able to put those leadership principles, put the organizational management experience all to use in operating this plan or this operations plan for my business. And that's been, again, very, very, very helpful.
This offered me.
So before I go into this, I just want to kind of recap a little bit on Ralph. Ralph was a Army colonel, a field artillery officer, absolutely brilliant guy. He owns a real property management. And I love working with veterans because he gets it, right? So not only did he take an opportunity to take a chance and go out and start a business, but he went down the road of franchising. He went down an area where he wasn't an area that he was focused on, but he took a chance on this and really loves it. And he brings on and spends a lot of his time mentoring other veterans and grooming his employees to become business owners now. And I just love that because that's in his nature. He's just a fantastic guy. Another part that I like about him is that, and just like all of our veterans, and what we're doing is we want to create military thriving communities. So he's giving back to the community that he lives in. And he also puts a little flair of the military in there, right? So he's supporting organizations in his community that are important to the military community as well. One example of that would be Wear Blue Run to Remember. And we do organization runs as a national partnership with Neighborly. Neighborly invests in them, with Team Red, White, and Blue and other nonprofits, Soldiers to Sidelines. But that gives us the availability to have at a community level the opportunity to allow our franchises to get exposure with those partnerships and really make an impact and show up in the community. And although it's good for business, it's also good for military personnel to connect and bring us together. So I wanted to call that out. And then you had Gail on there. I absolutely love Gail. When I first met Gail in Newport News, Virginia, she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna open a dryer vent wizard." And I'm like, "A what?" And then she told me how successful it is and why she was going into it. And again, if you don't know the business, standing on the outside looking at a dryer vent wizard going, why the heck would she buy not just one, but more than one? I don't understand it. Well, she made me a believer quick. She said, well, did you know that multi-dwelling units, all the insurance companies make sure it's mandatory for them to have their dryer vents cleaned? I started to look at my own dryers and I'm like, man, holy crap, I didn't even know this. So again, there's a market for this stuff and people are paying for it, and it's good for business and it's good for the community, right? These are things that that people are unaware of. But if you search how many fires are happening from dryer vents, you'd be shocked. Again, there's a reason there's a business for it, and her business is booming because of that. So let's transition a little bit about into ways of financing it. One of the biggest questions I get is, well, how do I pay for this? Are there more options than there are definitely more options than you think. You have small business loans, you have veteran specific funding programs, you have partners and partner and spouse investment opportunities. You can do a home equity loan, you can use your 401k and take something from out of there and roll over that those benefits. You can use your personal saving or retirement conversion, grants or other lender programs for veterans that might be out there, and we'll help you explore that path to ownership. I like to stop on this for a second because there's a lot of things that are out there. Again, just like navigating to transition from an employment standpoint, navigating business ownership is one of the things that I've never even tried to scratch the surface for on. But over the last 7 to 8 months, I've been really focusing on it. And I found organizations and things that people weren't even aware of. For example, some of you may be aware of the Voc Rehab program. That's usually meant for those changing from industry to industry for learning and education, where the VA will pay for your training if you're 10% disabled and honorably discharged, and they give you housing allowance. Well, little did I know that there's a Voc Rehab for self-employment. So again, it's about educating and understanding that. And well, how does that play in? How does that pay? How does that benefit you as a homeowner or as a business owner? Excuse me. Well, as a business owner, let's say you're investing $150,000 in a business, and $20,000 of it is from a calibration piece of equipment. Well, if you're 10% disabled and you have a business plan, which you're going to get a business plan from us, right? And you have a proven plan for the future of revenue, guess what? You can go to the VA and you can act on the Self-Employment Act and possibly get them to grant you that money. So how does that help you? Does that mean you take your $150,000 loan and drop that down to $130,000? That could be the case. Or does that give you $20,000 of capital that you can use somewhere else in your business? So a lot of these programs are not readily available or easily able to be found, and I'm happy to help you with that. Again, that's what I love about this organization. They allow me to go out, find the information to help benefit our service members and our family members, and we've been really successful in doing this. So what's the next steps? I'd love for you to get started. You could, how to research the brands that we have, questions to be asked about investing, do research on the brands that align with your skills and lifestyle. Schedule a discovery call with us. We'd love for you to learn more and ask questions. I'm going to pause in a second and do some question and answer from you all that's on the chat. But as you're out there doing your research, go out there with an open mind, right? And think about the dryer vent wizard. And don't push that aside and say, I would never do that. Look at it. Look at a cost analysis. How much does it cost you to get into this business? You know, look at Molly Maid. Look at all of these different brands that we have. All 19 brands are brands that have a need in the space or we wouldn't have one. And they're all extremely profitable. We have over 400, almost 450 veteran-owned businesses in our space. And I say veteran-owned business for a reason. If I were to open up a Chick-fil-A, I don't own 51% of that business. Therefore, I cannot certify my business as a veteran-owned business. But with Neighborly, every one of our brands, you own 100% of that brand. You can certify your business as a veteran-owned business, as a disabled veteran-owned business, and then you have the ability to bid on state or federal contracts if you choose to. So think about don't always look in front of you and see what's possible in front of you. Look long-term what the possibilities are. And is it affordable? I'm going to use Molly Maid as an example. And by no means am I pushing you towards a certain brand. I want you to explore all of them. It is your responsibility to go out there and look at all of these and understand them and find which one you're most passionate about. But if I use Molly Maid as an example, you could be in there owning a business for under $150,000. Right? You'll hear myths about franchise fees and revenue share. That is something that you do a one-time franchise fee. Every brand has a one-time franchise. You don't pay that again. 10 years later down the road, if you want to continue your franchise, they're going to go back and they'll say, hey, well, here's what your franchise fee is now. You pay it again. But that's the only time. Every 10 years you renew that, but it's at a way discounted price. And then you'll have a certain percentage that you're going to be that the business will get back. So let's say 3 to 5% of your profit will go back to that business. But that money's going towards marketing. Think about the call center that you get with this. What I love about our brands is that you're not only just buying a company and trying to run it from there. You have all these supporting casts and all these supporting resources that are available to you. You know that organizations that have a call center tied to them, 95% of the people that call in turn to a customer as opposed to those that don't have call centers, 40%. That's pretty powerful. So imagine you're Tommy Jones again at 11:30 at night, your plumbing goes out and you have to get on and Google plumber. Well, guess what? Mr. Rooter came right to the top because of our marketing team. And then I called them and somebody answered the phone at 11:30 at night. That's pretty powerful, right? Because if they didn't, what would have happened? I would have went to the next Google and I would have called them. And if they didn't answer, I'd call them. And you can't take an opportunity to miss that when the opportunity is there. And again, those are all the resources that are available. You don't have to think about what you need to support your business. We know what you need to support your business. We need you to run your business and run it really well and just knock it out of the park. All right, so I'm going to transition over to questions. I'd love to hear from you. What are your questions? What are some of your concerns? Even if it's what if, no question is too small. I am the most transparent person you're ever going to meet. So fire away. I'd love to hear any questions you might have. Do we have any questions, Jay?
Currently, we do not. But if any of our attendees would like to ask a question, please post the question in the chat box and we will ask them for you.
And if someone wants to even come off mute and ask a question, they can do that, or I can, however you want to do it, that works great. I know that in the chat, you see, if you want to curious about business owner, you can click the link right here and it'll take you directly to our site to learn more about our opportunities. Extremely affordable. I'm going to take an opportunity while we have some time left. I'm going to pull up another website so that you can check out as we're doing this, but just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that we're looking at when what you'll be looking at when you go to the Neighborly site. But Any questions yet so far come in? I don't think so.
No, sir.
All right, so I'm gonna pull this over and I'm gonna share just continue. You should be able to see this right here, but Jay, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it or say yes?
Yes, you can.
All right, great. So while we have some time, I'm gonna go through a quick little demonstration for you as you start to look at these opportunities. Because I want to bring it to you real. I want to make sure that you understand what's available to you. So as this data comes up, I have some slow internet, so forgive me. But as this data starts to come up, I'm going to refresh this again. What you'll see on this is a map and it's broken out by regions. And so you'll have a data collection point here where it'll show you a territory map. And this will tell you what's available in your area, what's either open for business, what's not open for business. And so you can kind of gain an idea of what is available to you right now in your area. The other thing you can do is, and while this is coming up, I'm going to pull up another tab here. You can look at all these different brands. So again, you can look at all the brands and learn about what the investment opportunity is. So you know going into it what you have. So I'm just going to I'll click on one of these brands right here and I'm going to look at Mosquito Joe and see if I can get some information here for you. So you start looking at Mosquito Joe, Lou, who happens to be a Navy veteran. So what does it cost to get into a Mosquito Joe? Again, real talk, real information. I'm not sugarcoating anything. If you're having conversations with anybody, they should be extremely transparent with you. So your initial investment for Mosquito Joe, it's $42,000 for your franchise fee, but your total investment to open the doors is going to fall between this range right here. So you'll see an asterisk here. This asterisk is representative of your discount. So it also represents in your FDD report. So when you get your disclosure document, all of these will show you every information about that business inside of that franchise disclosure document. But so think about owning a Mosquito Joe between 151,000 to 193,000. That is the all-in investment. That's for you to open your doors with equipment, everything, you name it, everything that you need to operate that business. There'll also be a discount for veterans on this franchise fee. Excuse me. And I remember I told you it's a one-time franchise fee. So if you come down here, this one has $8,500 off that fee. So instead of paying $42,500, you minus $82,500 or whatever the number was. And that gets you down there. Does that mean you need to have that amount of money available? No, that's why we talked about the SBA loan options. That's why we talked about, the 401k rollover options. So again, this is just an example of one. But if you go to all of the brands have the ability to do that. You can see that. You can see this is where you can come back here and search for open territories. I apologize. I don't know if it's my internet that's taking so long to get this going, but it's a really cool feature. You can put your zip code in and you can go down there or an area that you're moving to see if that makes sense for you. Again, you have the ability to find out where the market is that you want to go to. So let's say I'm in New Jersey and I'm PCSing or I'm transitioning out of the military in Nevada. I can go on this map and look up what's available in those areas so that I know and have those conversations. Again, being ready before I get out of the military and moving in that direction. And this is not an overnight process. We're not expecting everybody to say, I want to buy a franchise right now. I want to open it next week. We want you to take the time, the education, and I'll tell you the truth, we're going to invest in you just as much as you're investing in us. Just because you want to be a business owner and just because you're financially secure enough to be a business owner doesn't mean that Neighborly is going to approve you to be a business owner, right? Because we have to make sure that we have the right people and the right personnel that are running these businesses, because it's not just about you and your local brand. It's about the national brand and making sure that all of our owners are lockstep and doing things the same exact way. So let me give you this example right here. So I'm going to use Fayetteville, North Carolina as an example. And I hit search. And when I hit Fayetteville, what's going to come up is you're going to see that these counties or these territories are broken down by the dark blue line. If you click in the Fayetteville area and you scroll down, underneath here, you're going to see what's available in that area right now. So you'll see new to territory, you'll see partial availability. Let me explain to you the difference between new to territory and partial. So one, these are existing businesses that are in there. So you're like, well, there's already a grounds guy there. Why do I want to do it? Well, a grounds guy cannot cover this entire footprint. So what does Neighborly do? Neighborly does a really good job of market analysis. They understand, one, the number of zip codes that are in that territory, the number of population in that territory, the number of households and businesses that can be serviced in that territory, and the median income in that territory. Those are all critical for us to be successful as a business. We're not going to put you in an area where you can't be successful. And they're not going to allow you to overlap and take territory from another business. So you're going to have your own designated area. Now, does that mean you can't expand? Absolutely, it doesn't. You absolutely can expand. So, for example, if you're a Mr. Handyman and you're new to territory and there's nobody operating this area, you can actually buy multiple territories after your 6 months to a year. Start looking at if you're proving that you're successful as a Mr. Handyman owner, well, you can scale that business and start to grow all above and around the rest of the territory that you own. So that's how you get that scalability going on. And that doesn't mean you have to stay next to that. You can even pop over a county or two or a different part of the state. As long as you have a proven track record of success, they'll allow you to do that. So again, just a quick hands-on tutorial so that you can do that. I'm going to drop this link in the chat as well, so that you have the availability to look at this as well as you're starting to go through this. Let me get in here and drop this baby in there. All right.
Tommy,
Yes.
are there future brands that Neighborly is looking for to add as choices?
Yeah, great question, Jay. So normally it has to be tied to home services. The two areas that we don't have right now would be fencing and roofing. Those are two areas that we may consider acquiring some franchisable businesses. But in order for us to do that, it's a very in detailed approach on how we do it. We want to make sure that they're the same model that we have and that they can be acquired and we can take them on. But yes, those are two areas that we do want to grow to for sure. Great question, Jay. All right, well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So final thought, as we get to close, I'll leave you with this. You know, you spent your career serving others and leading with purpose. Franchising is simply a new way of doing that, continuing your mission on your terms. Now, at Neighborly, we're not just about building businesses, we're about building legacies. And we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to do that, not only for yourself, but your family. So I want to thank you for your service and thank you for your time today and your continued commitment to communities and your country. And I'm saluting you, and I'll stand by for a little while longer for questions, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point. Okay.